Do me a favor. Could you say senator instead of ma'am?
I love these members that get up and say, read the bill.
What difference at this point does it make?
The whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
We know that the free market is nonsense.
This liberal will be all about socializing, will be about basically taking over and the government running all of your companies.
The time has come for unfiltered, politically incorrect common sense. Welcome to the wild world of Cowboy Logic.
Oh, sorry, I was imitating Vladimir Putin while the president was trying to talk to him.
God. Here we go. Get ready to walk into some politically incorrect Cowboy Logic.
There's a picture on Drudge that is just priceless. You really do have to give credit where credit is due. Obama's just sitting there with his lips parsed like, he's not listening to me. And Putin is just like...
Of course he's not listening to him.
This guy is so minor league compared to Putin. It's just not funny. Well, welcome to Cowboy Logic Radio, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia, along with Don Neuen. You just can't make this stuff up. It was bad enough before the election when he's saying to Vlad's little sidekick there, just let me get elected and, I'll have more leeway.
Exactly.
And if the mainstream media would just do its job, well, we wouldn't have to be here then, but that's besides the point. Just when you think it really can't get any worse, it really can.
Just when you think it can't get any worse, I've learned that Michelle Obama believes that she is Irish.
Oh, yeah, okay.
By welcoming herself home.
Okay.
So I'm thinking that maybe what we need to do is put the little apostrophe after the O.
Mm-hmm.
Obama. Like O'Brien and O'Reilly.
And did she get over there in a separate jet? Oh, yeah, she
yes,
did,
she
didn't
did.
she? How many billions is this costing?
Well, her suite is $3,000 a night.
Does anybody think this is odd? It's really unbelievable how you just hear crickets chirping when I try to confront some of my commie lib friends on Facebook and say, how can you justify this?
Well, Bush did it.
Yeah, no, he didn't. And
well,
he didn't fly
Bush
in separate.
did it.
He didn't fly in separate jets. He didn't spend $1 billion in 1 year, which is, I believe, what they spent last year flying around, over $1 billion. And don't you find it a little odd if this is such a happy couple that they always go separately? He spends no time with this family. I'm sorry. This is just, if Bush did one iota of this, the mainstream media would be all over this. All over this. I keep looking at this picture of Putin sleeping. It's hilarious.
I wonder if he made Obama wait for 3 hours like he did John Kerry.
Yeah, John Kerry's like, hello, knock, knock, I'm here. Just walking around Red Square. And this country's becoming a joke.
Why don't you go get something
people
to eat and come back when Putin can see you, please?
Unbelievable. Their escalating differences over Syria were put aside. No, I don't think so. They agreed to urge both sides in the civil war there to the negotiating table. Well, we'll find out exactly. I don't have my teleprompter.
We respectfully disagree.
Yeah, okay. Well, we are going to have Major General Paul Vallely on. Again, he can certainly shed light on what's going on here because he's been over there. He knows what's going on in the Middle East, let alone Syria. And also Scott Winchell's going to be with us. Scott of also StandUpAmericaUS.org. And he's got a heck of a resume as well.
Yeah, he's boots on the ground himself.
He is. Briefed members of Congress and committees and allies of the U.S. and private firms on intelligent matters of national security and U.S. interests overseas. And, of course, he is now the national editor-in-chief of Stand Up America. And he held elected office as a constitutional conservative in his former home state of Massachusetts. So that's no great feat. I mean, that's a huge great feat in itself. And again, he's the national editor-in-chief of Stand Up America U.S. and the managing director of the Scott Vallely Soldiers Memorial Fund. We'll be talking to both of those gentlemen coming up shortly. And then in the second hour, we're going to kind of change gears and get to what's going to affect, well, not that Syria isn't, but it's going to affect so many of us. And that is your taxes in light of what's going on with Obamacare and just in general. Do you think it was bad enough to do your taxes every year? Wait till Obamacare kicks in. It's going to be like filing a whole nother set of taxes.
It's going to be like getting a mortgage every year.
Yeah. Pages and pages of information you're going to have to file. And, of course, you'll be fined again if you do it wrong. But the IRS, is not held accountable. I had wanted to abolish the IRS. Not only are we not abolishing it, we're giving them twice the power. And in light of all of these improprieties, which suddenly, it's like crickets with the mainstream media. These improprieties
That's putting it mildly.
Yeah. I mean, they got on it for a couple of days and they realized, maybe we better back off.
I read last night that Tea Party was considered a code term for anybody trying to seek the 501c4 status.
Tea Party, conservative.
Tea Party. That was what this gal from D.C., I put it on Facebook last night. The gal from D.C. claimed that it was no big deal. That's what we called anybody, conservative or liberal, that wanted a 501c4 status.
Yeah, right. Okay. No, but that was a trigger word. Anything that said conservative, anything that said Constitution in it, but anything that, like care, anything having anything to do with anything on the left got fast-tracked right through. In fact, one guy kind of got onto this after a while. He had some sort of Tea Party organization, and then he said what he did was he changed the name and he put the word green in there. And in 3 weeks, he had tax-exempt status.
Green Tea Party.
Yeah, really. Only 25% of illegal immigrants will actually be legalized under this. It's going to have zero impact, really, on anything.
But it's going to cost a pantload of money.
Yeah, because what it is it's going to essentially self-destruct the Republican Party. Thank you, Lindsey Graham. Thank you, Marco Rubio. Thank you, John McCain. And thank you, Paul Ryan, who can't even win his own home state during a presidential election. Unbelievable. I don't know what they're thinking. 30 years ago, they had this happen under Reagan, supposedly to build the wall. That hasn't happened yet. Build the darn wall, then we'll talk.
Oh, no, no. But we can't build the wall. We have to grant amnesty first.
But you know what? If we can do all this other stuff and spend $50 gazillion just on parties for all these government organizations, let alone buy 5 hollow points for every man, woman, and child in this country, let's sell some hollow point bullets to pay for the wall, even though the money's supposedly been appropriated for the last 30 years. What are they? 700 miles, I think they've built, if that.
Less than that.
Yeah, it's over 1,900 miles long.
It's a joke.
Yeah, only,
Here's my thought on this whole thing. The bringing of this massive number of immigrants into this country is going to put such a burden on the welfare state.
That's the whole idea.
That Cloward and Piven.
Ooh, sorry.
Man, that hurt.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Cloward and Piven will be realized.
They'll be
if you don't think this is part of the whole grand scheme here between bolstering the Democrat Party vote and collapsing the economy, you're an idiot. Yeah. Period. End of story.
You can't see the writing on the wall. History repeats it, but if you don't teach history, nobody's gonna realize it. The U.S. is going to begin direct talks with the Taliban. The Taliban says we're ready.
We promised. And I believe we need to ask Scott and the general about this. The Taliban has agreed to not be aggressive toward other countries.
Oh, okay.
They've signed a promissory.
We'll take their word for it, and it's just upside down. If you were going to do anything to undermine this country and to undermine the stability of the Middle East, and the world for that matter, you do exactly what this administration is doing. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You really got to ask whose side they're on.
If you want to understand why, you go watch the movie 2016.
Yeah, and you study the Cloward and Piven strategy and everything else, and it's all written there. Wake up, idiots. Elections do have consequences, and my friends in the Northeast, I'm sorry, are just gone. Just gone. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Got a shout out to use that Obama catchphrase. I want to shout out.
Yeah.
This week's Cowboy Logic extraordinarily strong supporter goes out to Fred Martinez.
Oh, okay.
Fred Martinez, thank you, sir. You, we definitely recognize and appreciate the support that you're giving Cowboy Logic and Cowboy Logic Radio. Thank you.
Yep.
I know you're listening, so I know you heard that. And I just used your initials, Fred Martinez, which we can do on our own show here. Anyway, thank you, Fred. We greatly appreciate everything you're doing, buddy.
It's just, I mean, every week I keep thinking just can't get any worse. And it does. I mean, I just can't understand why the American people aren't waking up. I know that you have to go and pay your taxes and go to work and raise your kids and head out to, all the baseball games now, and they're home for the summer and the pool and all. But, this is undermining our very way of life. I sit there and I go, everybody says it's a free country. You know what? It's not. It's not a free country anymore. Hardly. Then you read these headlines. It's okay to spy on Americans, but don't monitor a mosque. The Tea Party is looked at, totally scrutinized. Christian groups are asked how they pray, but in San Francisco's airport, they have to open up a garage separately for Muslims to go in there and pray in between flights. Could you imagine what the ACLU would be doing if you did something like that for a Christian or a Jewish group? I just want this, not even one half of the population we're bending over backwards for, and the fact that we don't racially profile. And if you got nothing to hide, you got nothing to hide. Racially profiling is such a horrible thing, but here we are saying, well, what did they say today? In something like 20 or 30 or 50 possible terrorist attacks were stopped. The NSA chief
they're trying to
today.
justify all this.
Right. Well, but meanwhile, these crazy whatever they were brothers up in Boston who actually traveled to Russia and came back, they didn't get looked at all. No, not at all. And they might have even killed somebody down in Florida. I don't know the latest on that. I know that was being investigated. Anyhow, so...
Did they find Hoffa?
No. I still
Why don't they stick Geraldo on the case?
Because he's going to find an empty tomb somewhere or something. It'll be empty when he finally gets it open.
Come on, Jerry, find him.
I don't know. Every time I was in Section 116 at Giant Stadium, that's what everybody told me he was there, and they've demolished that stadium since they never found him. So
they found this suspicious slab of concrete.
Oh, okay.
That he might be in.
Hey, how about Bill Ayers saying Obama? Talk about the, turnabout is fair play. Obama should be tried for war crimes, according to Real Clear Politics.
According to Bill Ayers.
Bill Ayers says that in a Real Clear Politics report.
We could either be elated about that or just laugh at it like we did earlier.
Didn't he blow somebody up?
No, he tried with his Weather Underground crap.
Okay. U6 unemployment still close to 15%. Unskilled labor chasing those jobs. What do you think it's going to do for our U.S. citizens if we okay this illegal immigrant?
What do you think it's going to do?
It's going to add union ranks.
That spot that we did. Youth, black unemployment. Yeah. Tell me what it's going to do to that.
Already close to 25%. Certainly ain't going to help.
That's going to necessarily skyrocket.
And what you really need to understand, especially if you're a kid, and I know you don't want to hear it from the parents, and I know you think, well, you're just old and you don't understand. Don't trust anybody over 30. Hey, these folks over 30 are really putting the screws to you. There's just no way to say it. The future generation of this country, generations, are screwed. There's just no other way to say it. You think you're going to get a job after spending, six figures or close to it for college education when everybody's going to be clamoring for every job in this country after the economy continues to tank? You're going to find out that the new normal is quite low compared to what it used to be. And I guess it makes sense.
Go watch the movie 2016.
No, I guess it makes sense to bring everybody down instead of raising up because, we feel your pain. We have to be nice to everybody. I actually had somebody say to me, well, Canada brings in illegal aliens and allows them to come in and blah, 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 blah. Canada's selective. Canada picks professionals. That's what this country used to do. You sneezed at Ellis Island. You went back to Europe. That was it. If you had a cold, you went back.
Hey, one of the first things I ask a driver when they want to come to work for Star Coaches is, can you get in Canada?
Yeah.
Can you get in Canada? No, I carried a switchblade 27 years ago and got caught with it.
And the double standard is just frightening, absolutely frightening. But if you see the movie 2016, it fits. And it's scary, but it fits.
This movie came out quite some time ago, and we were watching it. We were like the only people in the theater when we went to watch it. Remember that first time? And, now that everything is starting to come to fruition in this second term, you guys, if you haven't seen it, you got to go watch it. I wish my liberal friends would go watch it with an open mind.
Yeah, well, there are some who are starting to come around, those that do have an open mind. The rest, I'm sending you big packets of grape Kool-Aid, because that's apparently what you're going to need. Anyhow, we do have Scott Winchell coming up, and Major General Paul Vallely will be speaking too. And then again at 10 o'clock, CPA Mark Simons is going to tell you what you can and cannot expect. And I suspect that it's not real good on your tax returns next year. It's not going to be pretty. Not going to be pretty
not
whatsoever.
At all.
No.
And he's going to explain this in layman terms, so cowboys can wrap their head around it.
That would be Cowboy Logic CPA.
Cowboy Logic.
Yes.
CPA. CLCPA. I can't wait to talk to these three guys tonight. I mean, I'm sure Mark's going to depress me big time, but I know Scott's going to pick me up, and the Major General obviously is going to just kind of create awe for me, and I'll be speechless again like I was the first time he came on the air with us.
Yeah, it's really scary, some of the stuff he knows, and is, can talk about what's going on over in the Middle East. Great insight that you're just not going to get from the mainstream media, and that is why we have Cowboy Logic Radio in conjunction with StandUpAmericaUS.org. Yep. That's why we're here, folks. What you are not going to hear from the mainstream media. People say it might be a little on the shrill side, but tell me stuff that's really not true. It's happening right here on Cowboy Logic Radio. We'll be back in a moment. You're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio, the official radio show of StandUpAmericaUS.org.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
Okay, so we know you don't necessarily want to talk to Don Neuen, but we know you want to talk to Donna Fiducia, and you can. Call 917-675-3200, and you'll get to talk to Donna Fiducia, and Don Neuen will sit there and wait patiently.
Hello, my name is Scott Winchell. I'm the National Editor-in-Chief at StandUpAmericaUS.org, and I listen to Cowboy Logic, and I hope you do too.
Read me the message.
New message from Sebastian. Great news. We got the go-ahead. Can you meet at 10?
Reply. Definitely. I'll see you there. Play my running mix.
What's the traffic like around here?
Here's the traffic.
Take your iPhone 5 to the next level with the all-new politically incorrect Janet and Hillary personal assistant app.
Janet.
What?
Where's the closest gun shop?
Why do you want to go to a gun shop?
Because I can. This is still a free country, isn't it?
Before I tell you, you'll need to agree to submit to a complete background check, get fingerprinted, present 18 forms of identification, including but not limited to a current utility bill, a social security card, a driver's license, and a library card that has not yet expired.
But I already did all that. Well, sort of.
We also need to know how your health is. Did you gain more than 15 pounds in the last year?
What? No. Look, all I want to do is buy some ammo.
I'm sorry. The Department of Homeland Security has already purchased all available ammunition in 9mm, 40 caliber, and 45 caliber hollow point rounds.
What? Hollow points? Why hollow points? They're a lot more expensive. We're already $16 trillion in debt and counting.
We're going to use hollow points for target practice, unlike the military and law enforcement. As a matter of fact, we've purchased enough ammunition to have 5 rounds for every man, woman, and child in the United States.
Wow. Isn't that overkill? Sorry. Bad choice of words there. You know what? Forget this Janet Napolitano personal assistant app. I'm going to move on to Hillary Clinton. You know, I am getting a little hungry here. Hillary, where's the nearest Chinese restaurant?
What difference at this point does it make?
How about Chick-fil-A?
What difference at this point does it make?
I love Chick-fil-A. It's a family-owned, all-American restaurant. Okay. You want to play rough? Do you think Eric Holder perjured himself in front of Congress?
What difference at this point does it make?
Do you think the DOJ targeted media outlets like Fox and the Associated Press?
What difference at this point does it make?
Did the IRS target conservative groups?
What difference at this point does it make?
Is Obamacare a train wreck?
What difference at this point does it make?
Did Bill have an affair with Monica Lewinsky?
What difference at this point does it make?
What is the meaning of is?
What difference at this point does it make?
Is G.I. Joe anatomically correct?
What difference at this point does it make?
Oy.
What difference at this point does it make?
You're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. Their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance, yes. When cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
Don Neuen, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio, wears Vallely hats exclusively from the Cowboy Shop, and so can you. Visit thecowboyshoponline.com or call them at 888-854-6913. That's 888-854-6913.
And another day of
It doesn't matter if you live in Georgia, the U.S., or for that matter, anywhere in the world. The Cowboy Shop will deliver right to your door. Visit the Cowboy Shop for clothing, boots, hats, home decor, saddles, and horse gear. Even children's clothing, anything cowboy, you'll find it at thecowboyshoponline.com or call them at 888-854-6913. The Cowboy Shop, for the little cowboy in all of us. Yay! You're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio, the official radio show of StandUpAmericaUS.org.
Government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem. Government is the problem. Government is the problem. Government is the problem.
You're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio on the American Pride Network.
And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker. So God made a farmer. God said, I need somebody willing to get up before dawn, milk cows, work all day in the fields, milk cows again, eat supper, then go to town and stay past midnight at a meeting of the school board. So God made a farmer. God said, I need somebody willing to sit up all night with a newborn colt and watch it die, then dry his eyes and say, maybe next year. I need somebody who can shape an axe handle from a persimmon sprout, shoe a horse with a hunk of car tire, who can make harness out of hay, wire, feed sacks, and shoe scraps, who planting time and harvest season will finish his 40-hour week by Tuesday noon, and then pain in from tractor back, put in another 72 hours. So God made a farmer. God said, I need somebody strong enough to clear trees and heave bales, yet gentle enough to yean lambs and wean pigs and tend the pink-combed pullets, who will stop his mower for an hour to splint the broken leg of a meadowlark. So God made a farmer. It had to be somebody who'd plow deep and straight and not cut corners. Somebody to seed, weed, feed, breed, and rake and disc and plow and plant and tie the fleece and strain the milk. Somebody who'd bail a family together with the soft, strong bonds of sharing. Who would laugh and then sigh and then reply with smiling eyes when his son says that he wants to spend his life doing what Dad does. So God made a farmer.
Hey everybody, this is Stan Levy, also known as the Black Man Thinking, out here in California. When I'm not dealing with the friends of Governor Moonbeam out here, I tune into Cowboy Logic. Hope you do too.
Don't you just wish you could do that to the turds in Congress?
You know, do me a favor. Could you say senator instead of ma'am?
I love these members that get up and say, read the bill.
What difference at this point does it make?
The whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
We know that the free market is nonsense.
This liberal will be all about socializing, will be about basically taking over and the government running all of your companies.
The time has come for unfiltered, politically incorrect common sense. Welcome to the wild world of Cowboy Logic.
And welcome back to Cowboy Logic Radio. I got a lump in my throat every time I hear Paul Harvey talk about a farmer.
Isn't that great?
Oh, he was the best. When I was going through journalism school and at Seton Hall, I mean, he was the one person everybody just, looked up to. The consummate journalist.
Yep.
Him and Walter Cronkite, who you'd never know was a commie lib, because he was a professional too. And that's what journalism is supposed to be. Talk to a journalist student
kind of like
today.
Chris Matthews.
Yeah, talk about a journalist student today. You talk to them, they're like, "Oh, I want to change the world." No, idiot. You're supposed to see and report what you see, not what you feel and not what you want to see. And that's just another story for another show. And we've got a excellent couple guests coming on for the next hour and a half. We're going to start with Scott Winchell, who has briefed members of Congress and committees and allies of the U.S. and private firms on intelligence, matters of national security, and U.S. interests overseas. I mean, I'm just reading your bio here, Scott. I'm absolutely
Is that why
in
I'm
awe.
turning red?
Yeah, see, it's radio, so you can do that. We don't have to worry about it. You're now the editor-in-chief of Stand Up America. You held elective office in Massachusetts as a constitutional conservative, and again, that is no small feat. And you're also the managing director of the Scott Vallely Soldiers Memorial Fund. Welcome, Scott Winchell. We are so happy here at Cowboy Logic Radio to be affiliated with StandUpAmericaUS.org.
Well, let me say thank you, Donna, and we are just as tickled to be associated with the Cowboy Logic folks. And Don and Donna, we're just really, really thrilled to be here with you.
You know, you just sit here and you look at what is happening in the world. You almost wish there was no need to be doing what we're doing, because if the mainstream media were doing their job, that would be the case. And certainly if the folks in D.C. were doing their job, it gets to the point, because they're so corrupted down there that all they want is their collective butts to be, saved, and their jobs. And they lose sight of the big picture that this country is really in dire straits at this point if these policies are allowed to continue.
Well, I couldn't agree more, Donna, and that's one of the reasons why General Vallely created Stand Up America way back in 2005, because he and several of his compatriots were noticing all of this beginning, and well, it wasn't really beginning; it had been going on for the last 100 years, but how it's really taken effect on everybody's everyday life. And of course, in the last 4.5 years now, it's been running at breakneck speed. And as I heard you say in the earlier segment, wait till April 15th, 2014. When you go to file your taxes, when you go to see your doctor, that's if you even got your doctor anymore. It's just a mess. And like you said, if it wasn't for all this mess, I wouldn't have a job. And you know what? I'd like to be unemployed.
Yeah, I kind of think that myself too, but unfortunately that's not the case. I remember when I was at the Fox News Channel in 2000, when the whole thing with the hanging chads and everything started coming down, and thinking to myself, at that point, they're going to declare martial law. And there were a couple other anchors and I were sitting around one night, we were talking about it, and that was the first time I really started to think that I'm starting to distrust my government. They might not have our best interests at heart. They were really trying to steal this election from both sides, and it's only gotten worse.
Well, and we're seeing a lot of the artifacts of that very same thing, both in 2008 and in 2012. And it's come down to trust. And as we all know, with the scandal-palooza going on now, that and especially with the latest polls on the trustworthiness of the Oval Office, we've all lost trust. Those of us that Stand Up America saw this a long time ago. We're just glad to see Americans finally peeling back the skin off their eyes and looking at what's taking place every day. I always forget who said it, but I think it was, I'll just go ahead and say it, but there are lies, damn lies, and statistics.
Yeah.
And everything coming out of Washington now, you got to look at it with a scant look at it from an angle and all angles, because they're not telling you everything. Things don't add up anymore.
No. Yeah, everybody says, well, it was Bush's fault. Well, that's true. He started a lot of this stuff. But I can honestly say that this whole situation, it's been so many decades in the making. It's a culmination of changing people's attitudes and not educating them enough, not keeping them abreast of what's going on, or just being lazy. I always say it's the Kardashian effect. We got to figure out what's going on with Kim Kardashian before we can figure out, what's going to actually affect your life. And you look through the headlines, you see people selling Obama phones for heroin. You see, everybody thinks that they're going to go get their Obama bucks. They don't know where the money comes from. It's, he's going to take care of us. And you go to the zoo, it says don't feed the animals. There's a reason for that. You don't want them to get dependent on you. Well, you know what? In some respects, that's exactly what the government does, and they know it. It's the Cloward and Piven strategy. It's the whole grand design of one world order, making everybody dependent on the government as much as you can. They're changing the rules of the game as they go along to screw the middle class, who's trying to keep their head above water, and little by little, that's what you're going to have. The upper and nothing in the middle and the lower.
Well, Donna, and just to follow up on what you're saying, I think the operative word here is overwhelm.
Yep.
The current administration and even back in the Bush administration, I'll touch on that in a second, but the Obama administration and the Cloward and Piven strategy, Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals, the whole thing is based on overwhelming the system, whether it be the economic system, the welfare system, everything that we do. I heard you mention in the earlier segment something along the lines that people have lives. Most of them are trying to find a job. And if they can't find a job, they're not sitting on the computer going through thousands and thousands of articles that really mean something to them. So what we do at Stand Up America is we try to make that a little easier for everybody. We try to go through not only the American media, but also the foreign media, stuff you don't hear in the mainstream media, and even Fox News ignores overseas. But what we really try to do is, with our research staff and our network, our global network of intelligence people, is to provide people a one-stop shop where they can come and look at things. We don't have everything there, but we certainly have the things that are likely important to the conservative constitutionalist. And that's one of the reasons that the general created this, and he brought me on board several years ago to manage for him. And we're just tickled to have another venue that we can help with what we all hear so much about with the IRS scandal is the 501c4. Stand Up America is a 501c4. We've been incorporated since 2005. We've had to reincorporate back in 2009, fortunately, before they started watching all of these people in 2010. So, but we've been around for a long time, and that's our whole ethos, is to educate. To get rid of, to go through all of the chaff, get rid of the political spin and say, hey, folks, this is what you really need to look at.
Scott, I've been digging into the Stand Up America US.org site quite a bit over the past few weeks. And I'd like you, if you don't mind, to explain to the listeners really some of the different areas that you are going into, because obviously you've got the blog, which is extremely easy to navigate in, very useful with information. But man, there's a ton of stuff on here that's super interesting and very, in my opinion, broad scaled. And if you don't mind, could you give us a recap of everything that's going on this site?
Well, we don't have enough time for all of that, but I can certainly give it a quick thumbnail. We do a lot of our own original work. Of course, the general's a prolific writer. He's right in the middle of a book project as we talk right now. It's coming to its end here shortly. And a lot of these, his original work is all based upon his 30-plus years of experience working in not only the military, but you think of a general, you think of just the Army, but the man was involved on all kinds of different levels with the interaction between nations all around the world. And as after he retired, he just really saw how things were unraveling. And we put this together based upon his writings. And he started early on with his lily pad strategy, which addressed the whole Afghanistan conflict. His calls to action, which are ways to try and help grassroots efforts reattain the founding fathers' intentions for our country, not what's taking place now, but over 100 years ago, things looked a lot different. And he's also been working, and I work closely with him on an awful lot in the Middle East. We have a whole series called the Chessboard Series. And the biggest thing right now overseas is all the work with Syria. Paul and our Middle East expert, Mr. Najjar, have been working with Lebanon and Syria and Turkey and other nations over there for many, many years, and have developed a wonderful relationship with the command of the Free Syrian Army. Now, I probably should explain really quickly what that means. Because everybody's getting a different story in the news. Everybody's hearing about Ansar Sharia over in Libya, and they're hearing about the Nusra Brigade and all of the Al-Qaeda ties in Syria. But a lot of the information that's being disseminated around the globe is coming from sources that have ulterior motives. This comes straight from Russia, comes straight from the Syrian regime, comes from all kinds of people, including the Qataris and the Saudis and so forth. But what SUA has been able to develop is a true relationship with the real leadership of the FSA, not what everybody's reading about. And it's unfortunate, and as Paul had mentioned in his last visit with you, that even people like John McCain didn't call him to find out, when they all know that we've been providing them this information for a long time, and the contact, and inviting them, and they choose to look the other way. And it's really a shame. But this is the kind of work that we do at SUA.
Now,
part of it.
This portion, this real leadership of the FSA you're talking about, are they different than these rebels that supposedly Obama wants to arm?
Well, Donna, you know as well as I do, if it bleeds, it leads. And so it's much more titillating to find out about Al-Qaeda being this or that over there. Yes, they are there. Yes, they're a problem. We're not minimizing that, but they are not the majority. They are far in the minority, but that's changing, because the longer we drag our feet, the less control the secular nationalists who began all of this, and who were the original people who defected from the regime itself, who were career soldiers. They weren't ideologues. They're not jihadists. These are the people who have been in charge all along, but you never hear that in the news, do you?
No. I didn't know that. That's why we have you here.
Well, this is, I know that the general touched on it about a week and a half ago when he was on your show, and I just wanted to follow up on that people need to really start looking at where they're getting their information, who is saying it, and the proof is in the pudding right now. Our own White House can't be trusted. Our own NSA can't be trusted. A lot of senators and congressmen can't be trusted. And just as a sidebar, I'd like to say, I really like to stay away from calling Congress as a monolithic being, because it's really made up of 535 people plus non-voting members. And there's an awful lot of really good people there, too. Now, granted, people like Harry Reid, Nancy Pelosi, and some Republicans really need to be put on the sideline forever. But the issue is they can't do it because the executive branch has been usurping their powers, running around them, and running the worst foreign policy I've ever seen. And I know the general tells me this all the time, that he's ever seen in his 70-plus years. We don't, as he says all the time, we have no diplomatic victory since Ronald Reagan. How is that so?
No, I don't think we've really had much of a diplomatic victory at all. Even, well, I guess since Ronald Reagan in some respects, yes, as far as tearing down the wall. But as far as a war, our hands have been tied behind our back since Korea.
We haven't won a war since World War II.
Well, yeah, I was going to... You said it. That's what I was thinking, but okay. Didn't want to be that blunt. But it does seem to me, because it is a chessboard, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. So now you've got Russia coming in, and they're backing Assad at this point. And, this picture on Drudge is so telling. To me, Obama looks like a little boy who's just been, told to go sit in the corner. And Putin is just not paying attention to him at all. And as you say, the longer we wait, the worse it's going to get. Now we hear the U.S. is going to begin direct talks with the Taliban. And the Taliban says they're ready to talk to us. Okay. Meanwhile, there's been a blast in Kabul, killing 3 and injuring 30.
Yeah, and they're all set up in Camp Qatar right now, and it's actually not new news. It's been a while that they've been in talks about setting up this arrangement they have in Qatar to do just these kind of face-to-face negotiations. But Don, let me ask both of you this: what are we doing negotiating with terrorists?
What are we doing there? Period.
Exactly.
Point. Yeah, supposedly. I mean, I remember you just didn't even talk to Yasser Arafat. That was it. That was, you just don't talk to him. It was like an unwritten thing. Now you've got Samantha Power saying we should send U.S. military might over to Israel against Israel. And she's in the Obama administration. Gets absolutely no airplay.
She just got a promotion.
Exactly.
Or at least, if the Senate confirms her to take Susan Rice's position. But let me ask America, are we doing better for that or worse?
Yeah. Is that what you want running this country?
It's absolutely pathetic. The wonderful thing, Don, is that they have basically put Susan Rice behind an iron curtain now.
That's right.
She's
that's the whole
under
idea.
executive privilege now. They're not going to be able to get near her. So you can take her name off the Benghazi table.
No, and the NSA, doesn't she actually, she's the liaison with the NSA, correct?
Exactly.
So she's above the NSA.
In a way, too. I mean, she also has the year of the president. Now, I understand a lot of the left says, the president gets to pick who he wants. I agree. He's very comfortable with her, likes her advice and everything, but we know that her advice is not sage. It is crippling the United States. What's been taking place just of late, especially with the release that Snowden made a couple days ago about, the 2009 G20 summit and listening in on BlackBerries and so forth. No wonder Putin is handling Obama the way he is.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you right now, he is handling, and the Iranians are handling Obama like a puppet on a string.
Oh, it's embarrassing.
But you know what? I don't think it's embarrassing for him. I think
it's embarrassing for me.
Well, it's embarrassing as an American. But see, to me, my deep down thought is this is what he wants, because in my opinion, he hates America. I'm going to come right out. That's right. I said it.
That's right.
He hates America. He does not, he wants to fundamentally transform it. It's the greatest country on earth, he says. So why do you want to fundamentally transform it?
Because he's anti-colonialist.
Exactly.
He's anti-American. The movie 2016.
Ironically,
Paul had mentioned to you about a week ago that working with Jerry Molan, who was the producer of 2016 for Dinesh D'Souza, and he's an Academy Award-winning producer for Schindler's List and so many movies everybody's so familiar with. Mm-hmm. And the project is coming up again, and I'm telling you right now, people need to go and understand this man. I don't care what they think they know about him; they really don't. And the information is not hidden; it's been out for a long time. You can talk about the birthers, you can talk about all kinds of different avenues of fraud and everything, but what you really get down to in 2016 is who the man really is, what makes him think the way he thinks.
In his own words.
Yeah.
Well, exactly, and it's all factual. It's not like somebody made this stuff up. It's not a made-for-TV movie.
I love the way they can find out every little thing about every single person in this country, unless it's in a mosque or unless it's the President of the United States.
Or where the illegal aliens are.
Exactly.
Hey, what are your intel sources telling you that Valerie Jarrett's been doing lately? Because we were talking to Lisa Daftari last week about this, and she's been rather silent lately until she came out and recently said that Holder was by no means stepping down. He was here for the duration.
Well, there's been a lot of scuttlebutt around her for a long time, and to dispel some of the rumors, yes, she was born in Iran, but her father was one of those Doctors Without Borders types, and it had nothing to do with her being, any allegiance to Iran, at least as far as we can tell. But it doesn't mean that she's not one of the most left liberals that you could possibly get, an extremely controlling woman. I mean, she was just one of the biggest slumlords in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And if you can imagine that type from that city, you can understand her type of thinking and her type of reasoning and how she handles people. But there's been a lot of scuttlebutt that she has been conducting discussions with people I would call her enemies. I can't prove it.
Iran?
Yeah.
The Taliban. We're talking to the Taliban.
Well, the Taliban now is proven because they just admitted it. It's been over a year and a half now that they've been supposedly talking through, back channels, the old back channels in quotes.
Yeah, but have you noticed that, for the longest time, for his first term, every time he was on camera, she was there.
Yes. Yep.
And then the past 6 months, she's basically disappeared.
I'm sure she's there. She's just quietly in the background.
Yeah, there's got to be a reason for that, though.
She's close
you
to
want to
the
talk
president.
a little bit about Samantha Power, because we touched on that just a second ago. In my opinion, this is a danger, and
she's certainly not a friend to the Israelis.
Exactly, and there are many people that may not know that her husband is Cass Sunstein.
Cass Sunstein, yes,
who is dangerous.
Well, you start to look at how, if you take your American shoes off for a minute or your American glasses off and start to look at things from an international perspective, and you start looking at the people that the foreign leadership are looking at that are in power over here, there's an incredible amount of message in that. And when they start seeing people like Samantha Power being nominated for the UN ambassador from the United States, they know what she's been saying. You have to remember, they watch us much closer than we watch them, at least from an American, general American attitude. Yeah, our intelligence and our CIA and so forth, they're watching them too. But those people have a lot more time on their hands because they don't live the same kind of life that we live here in the United States. And one of the biggest issues is for people to take off their Western glasses and put on some Eastern glasses for a while. And you start to look at how people in Afghanistan and Iran and other places think and how they live their lives and what is dear to them. A great deal of them, you got to remember, are Muslim, and they worship death. They don't worship life. And that is something that is lost in this PC world. And for us as Americans to really understand what we're up against, we need to identify our enemies. And that doesn't mean that we're going to put our values onto them and say, like George Bush used to say, well, they all just want peace and freedom. Peace and freedom has different meanings around the world. And like the general said the other day when he was at the Syrian border, forget which time it was, but one of the last two times, he had, basically the foot soldiers that are fighting the Assad regime tell him, well, we have no idea what democracy means, but we know what freedom is.
Yeah, they want liberty.
They definitely want liberty. And you know what? This is something else that's lost on most of the world. Syria is not a backward nation by any stretch of the imagination. They're a bunch of very artistic and entrepreneurial people. They just want to work hard and make their way. Most of them are Muslim, and I would like to say in name only. And they will go through what they're trying to do is get something that they've never had. They've led an existential existence for their entire lives because they've been underneath the the Assad family for so long. They've been under the gun, and they know what freedom looks like, and they want it. They know what liberty looks like. They just want to be left alone. You look at some of the cities that are now just rumbling mess. Those were major metropolitan cities that look an awful lot like downtown Boston, maybe, or some of the older buildings, but very, very creative people.
And other parts of it look like Detroit.
I was just going to say that. The rest of it looks like Detroit now. But don't you see most of as somebody who is by no means a Middle East expert, all of the westernized or mildly westernized countries were the ones who seemed to progress, for lack of a better way of saying it, with Egypt.
Well, Turkey's a great example.
Exactly. And this administration is fomenting a war against those Western cultures, in my opinion.
Well, there's an old, I'll probably get this phrase wrong, but when you witness something taking place and you know it's wrong, but you choose not to say anything, you become culpable yourself. And that's basically what Obama has been doing in the White House when it comes to the Middle East. Do you remember back when how important it was for us to put this no-fly zone over Benghazi, which was in danger of being eradicated, quote unquote, their words?
And Libya,
well, Aleppo has been eradicated, basically. Homs, Hamas, half of Damascus, the little town on the Lebanese border, El Qassam, and so forth. These people are being decimated. They're saying 70 to 90,000 people. I know it's over 100,000 people are dead because of this conflict.
Well, they look at Iraq. We had 12 UN resolutions, numerous okays by Congress to go in there, and all you hear is, oh, there were no WMDs. Well, tell that to the 70,000 Kurds that disappeared. You know? Okay, maybe there weren't any right there when they went in there, but most of my friends are like, oh, I didn't know that happened. Well, hello, I think what you were trying to say is bad things happen when good people do nothing. And that's exactly what is happening. And it's the lack of education, but by creating chaos, as the Cloward and Piven and Saul Alinsky idea of thinking coming out of Chicago-style politics pushes. You've got so much, problems now with essentially 15% unemployment. You've got people who are underemployed. You've got Obamacare on top of all this. There's so much stress in this country right now. People are worrying about putting food on the table, and they can't really worry about what's going on over in the Middle East or anywhere else for that matter. Exactly.
Well, yeah, exactly. And just to follow up, Donna, on what you're saying about jobs, they say, oh, these jobs were just created. The jobs report comes out every Friday right after the end of the month. And they talk, oh, these jobs are created. I always ask, and what we try to do in SUA is try to show the people what those jobs really are. What do those numbers actually mean? And you start to say to yourself, and I've heard this several times, there was a couple of famous quotes out there of some people that were interviewed about, yeah, I got a new job. I got 3 of those new jobs. They're all McDonald's type jobs.
Yeah,
these are people with
nameplate
degrees.
Jobs.
Yeah, exactly. They're subsistence wages. They're what's called the waiter-waitress world. And our friends over at Zero Hedge are always helping us out with explaining it to everybody. And so we like to include a lot of their analysis in our reports on Stand Up America, because they really go into telling you what you don't have the time, in other words, to see, that you don't have the ability to understand the science of economics and the science of everything and all these statistics that's taking place, and to understand this financial world. Because it's not the same paradigm it was even 5 to 7 years ago. It's all changed. And for us to continually look at things based upon the same benchmarks is giving us all skewed look at what's going on. But you know what? The Cloward Piven strategy says continue to use that stuff, make it look pretty.
Yep. And if this immigration thing gets pushed through, that to me really is just that's it. Stick a fork in it. We're done. We're done.
We're toast.
Real quick, just tell us briefly again a little bit more about your standupamericaus.org. We really do appreciate you coming in with us and talking to us, and so proud again of our affiliation with Cowboy Logic Radio and standupamericaus.org.
Well, just on the funny side, I do wear Bailey hats too there, Don. So
there you go.
The Stand Up America site, again, is a kind of aggregation of stories, not along the lines of Drudge, but we give you an explanation of why we hope you read the articles that we find for you. We also do the same thing with our original work, with our series of different programs and the books that we're working on and our films that we'll be working on. The point is that we want to give you a spot to go and take a look at it. Is it all there? No, nobody can possibly do that. But what we want to do is, with our crack research staff, is find the stuff that you can trust. And that's the big deal. We look through and we analyze this stuff on literally a daily basis, 12 to 16 hours. And our staff really knows what to look for, and they overwhelm me every day.
Well, and you vet all these articles that you post.
We base everything in fact. Everything in fact. There's, we do have our political opinions, but they're based in fact too. We all have the right to our opinions, but the SUA opinion is based upon the foundations of America and where we need to go back to. And this is why we bring this information to you and hope that it is something that you can go out and talk to your friends, coworkers, and family and be able to do so from a knowledgeable standpoint and not just from an emotional knee-jerk reaction because you heard something in the news or somebody got shot somewhere. It's about looking at the fact and sifting through the chaff.
Right.
It's just really sad because the Constitution is being vilified, and or not being taught at all. And that really is what's yeah.
Yeah, you can go to the site and study the Constitution along
with the Federalist Papers and other historical documents. And that way, when you're reading something on our site and you really want to challenge somebody and you want to go see what it really says, boom, it's just one click away.
There you go.
Now, earlier tonight when you and I were talking, we had hoped that we were going to get the Major General on here.
Unfortunately, he is traveling right now, and he had thought he would be available, but I'll apologize on behalf of SUA and the General for not being able to entertain your audience tonight.
And entertaining it would have been.
Yes.
I don't think we have to worry too much about an absence from him. Am I correct?
Oh, not at all. No.
Okay.
No, he's with his family right now, and his grandson, who looks just like him. We call his grandson the Little General.
And I'm sure he is.
Yeah, he's every bit of him. Yeah.
Well, that's good. We'll have him on certainly in the future. And again, Scott Winchell, we want to thank you for being on with us here at Cowboy Logic Radio. And the new partnership between Cowboy Logic Radio and StandUpAmericaUS.org. Please go online, look it up, learn, give it some time, because we may not have this time left to save this country if people don't start waking up and educating themselves, because you're not going to get it from the public schools anymore. In fact, I'm going to steal a line from Neil Bortz. Public school is more like child abuse.
Hey, Scott, thanks a million, man. It's an absolute honor to be working with you and the General. It really is.
The honor's all ours, Donna and Don. I just really, really happy that we're together again. I know, Donna, you and Paul have known each other for a long time, and it's great to marry up this wonderful effort.
Absolutely. All right, we'll be talking in the future. We'll have the General on again, I'm sure, many, many times. And in the meantime, we're going to say goodbye to you, Scott Winchell, over there somewhere. You take
underground
care.
Bunker, right?
Yes, in the underground bunker. You take care. We'll be talking to you later. And coming up, Mark Simon's CPA, how healthcare and Obamacare is going to affect you, and it ain't pretty.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
You're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio.
Hey everybody, this is Stan Levy, also known as the Black Man Thinking out here in California. When I'm not dealing with the friends of Governor Moonbeam out here, I tune into Cowboy Logic. Hope you do too.
The Cowboy Logic phone lines are now open. Give us a call at 917-675-3200. That's 917-675-3200.
This is real rock star wife and cancer-fighting ninja Jill Gaynor, hailing from the great red state of North Dakota, and you're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio.
I am tired of the United States military being put upon by this commander-in-chief and by all the little creepy left-wingers in this country. I'm sick of it. Oh, what we did in Iraq. What we did in Iraq was righteous. And young men and young women went over there and did it on orders from their president with the support of their Congress. I am not going to tolerate, at least on this program, the attack on our military families, what we've done, We are a great people. We are a beneficent people. We are a tolerant people. These damn puke liberals, if they lived anywhere else on the face of the earth, they'd be in gulags, they'd be enslaved, they'd be tortured or worse. They don't know how good they have it in this country. From the president on down, every day the rest of us who work for a living, who mind our own business, who pay our bills, who ask nothing from anybody, every damn day we have to hear this demagogue, our president, and the vice demagogue, and all the other demagogues who live in the lap of luxury, who take one trip a month, who are spending $1 million on a weekend, our money. We have to hear them lecture us about how our country sucks, how they're going to fix it, how our success and hard work doesn't belong to us, how we don't do enough for them, for their favorite political constituencies, for the government. We have to hear this every damn day, day in and day out, as they hollow out our society, as they destroy our economic system, as they undermine our military, as they leave wide open our borders. We have to hear this crap every single day. And by the way, not just from Democrats, Republicans too. Is there nobody left in public office who will defend our way of life? That's the question. Look at this Republican Party. This Republican Party, born as the anti-slavery party, born as the abolitionist party, prepared to take on the federal government, prepared to take on a third of the states, born in courage. Look at it today. Pathetic. Led by weasels. The Republican Party motto today is, what is the motto today? Let them eat mush. You shouldn't fear illegal aliens. You shouldn't fear the destruction of the culture. You shouldn't fear this. You shouldn't fear that. What are you, a conspiracy nut? What are you, paranoid? From the Republicans. It's unbelievable. So no, I'm not going to give time to mental patients on the left, the philosophy of the stupid. Oh, but don't worry, don't you know, they support the military. Oh, yes. While they're taking their health care away, they support them. You take health care benefits away from men and women who volunteer to defend our country with their lives and give it to people who haven't earned it, who sit on their asses. That's right, I said it. Claim to be victims and claim to have certain economic rights. That is a right to your labor. And I've had enough of it.
You're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio.
Batter up, guys. Baseball is in the home stretch, and if you're planning to go to a ball game, there's no better way to travel than with Star Coaches Incorporated. Traveling with a Star Coach means you'll be riding in a 45-foot custom-built coach with plush leather interior, flat-screen TVs with in-motion satellite or refrigerator, and a bathroom. So why would you want to head to the ballpark in a cramped compact? Visit StarCoachUSA.com today to find the best coach for you. Star Coaches promises exceptional customer service, impeccable driving standards, and extraordinary amenities in each of the limo and party buses. There's no doubt you'll arrive in style, and the entire experience will be unforgettable. Leave the driving to the pros and book a Star Coach. Let them help you choose the perfect bus that fits your needs and budget. What are you waiting for? Visit StarCoachUSA.com today.
Hi, I am Parker. I am only 15 years old, and I am already sick and tired of what our politicians at the local, state, and federal level are doing to my financial future. I am sick of the irresponsibility of our elected officials and the lobbyists who continue to financially abuse my country. I am a 15-year-old kid. I approve this message, and I listen to Cowboy Logic Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, Representative Hank Johnson, Democrat, Georgia.
Mr. Speaker, like a kid at a carnival, I rise in full support of H.R. 527, the Responsible Helium Administration and Stewardship Act of 2013. Mr. Speaker, I'm relieved that, and I'm sure that the American people are relieved as well, that Congress is finally going to do something about one of the most pressing issues today. That is, we've got to ensure access to helium for all. I'm pleased to support this bill, which shows that this Tea Party Congress will make the tough choice to keep children's birthday parties on schedule and give industries that rely on helium the lift that they deserve. Imagine, Mr. Speaker, a world without balloons. How can we make sure that the injustice of there being no helium for comedians to get that high-pitched voice that we all hold near and dear to our hearts? Imagine a world without balloons. Today, the House has chosen to just simply float above it all. And finally, we're going to do something for the American people, and we should all pat ourselves on the back for that.
Don't you just wish you could do that to the turds in Congress?
You know, do me a favor. Could you say senator instead of ma'am?
I love these members that get up and say, read the bill.
What difference at this point does it make?
The whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
We know that the free market is nonsense.
This liberal will be all about socializing, will be about basically taking over and the government running all of your companies.
The time has come for unfiltered, politically incorrect common sense. Welcome to the wild world of Cowboy Logic.
And welcome back to Cowboy Logic Radio. I'm Donna Fiducia, along with Don Neuen. Our phone number, by the way, is 917-675-3200. And if you are in need of some liberal help, we do have a liberal helpline, 310-299-2899. That's an LA number by design, by the way.
That was Donna's idea, and I thought it was pretty funny.
You know, people listen to that little bit that we played with Hank Johnson and the helium, and they go, that can't be real. It is real. It is absolutely him talking on the floor of the Congress. I mean, this is what idiots we have representing us.
Embarrassingly, he's from the state of Georgia.
I know. But somebody else who is not embarrassing from the state of Georgia is K. Mark Simons, CPA. And Mark Simons is the owner of K. Mark Simons PC with over 20 years of experience providing accounting, audit, tax, and consulting services throughout the Georgia area. And we wanted to bring him on today here at Cowboy Logic Radio to talk about taxes and you and, what's going on. 2014, because
I got a feeling this is going to creep me out more than Lisa Daftari's discussion with us about Middle East terrorism.
I can't imagine if you're a doctor and you have to change all these codes. Imagine what the tax code is going to be. But Mark Simons, welcome to Cowboy Logic Radio. You there?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Donna.
Well, tell us a little bit about what you know and what you might not know at this point as far as what is going on for the average Joe taxpayer and how are we going to work around this in 2014?
Well, there's a lot of things that we do know, but there's probably more that we don't at this point, because this whole Obamacare program is not well defined at this point, and we have two of the major groups that are responsible for overseeing it, which one is the HHS. Obviously, with some of the things that have happened in the news recently, we know they're a little short on funds as far as getting exchanges prepared and up and running. That the other side of it is the Internal Revenue Service, and
we all
everybody
love
knows
them.
where
Yeah, we love
everybody
them.
knows where So, there are some specifics that are public so far, but how those are actually going to play out, we don't really know yet. I don't think we're going to know even when we get into 2014.
The thing is, if, gosh forbid, you make a mistake, they can come back and audit you and everything else, and nobody knows what's going on. I don't think they even do.
I have no doubt that they don't know completely what's going on. And you're right. That's probably one of the biggest fears at this point is for people in my line of business as well as small business and individuals. If you put something on your return thinking you deserve a credit or whatever it is that you're trying to apply for through your tax return, what's going to happen if they decide, nope, you did it incorrectly? How long is it going to take them to figure it out? Mm-hmm. And B, what are they going to do to you when they do figure out you prepared it incorrectly?
Yeah, because if you get a situation where you're fined for back taxes, the percentage of the penalty is exorbitant. Now, at least, I can imagine what it's going to be under Obamacare.
Right. And, typically in normal cases with normal tax-related matters right now, it can take 1 to 2 years before the Internal Revenue Service comes back and says something about your return. With this program being completely new, with the IRS potentially being significantly underfunded as far as bringing in people to do the work on this new health care program and everything else, I don't have any idea how long it may take for them to go through and figure out there's errors with the returns. I mean, I guess the only good news is if you file your return and you don't make significant errors on it, 3 years run and the statute of limitations gives up. So, we can at least hope for 3 years.
And is that holding? Is the 3-year statute of limitations holding?
Unless the IRS can come back and prove that you did something deliberately fraudulent.
All right. A lot of my colleagues and a lot of the people that I work with in the music industry, mm-hmm. 4 years ago were elated. They were all big-time supporters of Obamacare. All of a sudden, within the past year, 6 months to a year, they're realizing that they're about to get screwed in a big way, especially given the fact that many of them don't have health care.
Right.
What are they going to be faced with? I've got guys that I know in the touring music industry that do not and have not had health care, and they were big Obama supporters because they believed that they were going to have free health care provided for them.
Right.
What are they faced with starting 2014?
A smack in the face.
As individuals, they will be faced with the possibility of facing a penalty on their tax return as well.
Now, when you say the possibility of it,
well, there's a few exemptions as to why somebody wouldn't have the penalty that exists, and one of them is this: if it's a very low income individual. And normal health care would cost over, I believe it's about 8% of their income, then they're exempt from having to have health insurance. But for most of us, if we don't have that health insurance, then we face the penalty. The penalty is about $700 for 2014 per individual on your tax return. So if it's a married couple with 2 kids, you're looking at $2,800.
Now, what does that translate into when they're figuring out their taxes and they've got their, their handful of deductions? They might have a mortgage interest that they can deduct. Where does that $2,800 hit them? At what point in this line item tax return, this 1040 form?
It will hit at the bottom of the form. You go through and you figure out all your taxes, and penalties show up at the bottom of the tax form. So
they're working their way through the 1040, and they get close to the bottom quarter of that second page, and they're going, all right, it looks like I'm going to have a refund of $250. And
that'll get absorbed. No, you don't. You don't have a refund of $250. You owe $2,500.
So what really is going to hit people hard, and nobody's talking about this, the economic part of it aside, as far as your tax return. I mean, a lot of people might think, hey, I'm going to get $500 or $1,000 back. Now all of a sudden, if you've got a family of 4, you're not. In fact, you're going to owe $1,500. Think on a national scale how this is going to affect the economy. I mean, people get $2,500 back or something like that. They might, use it on a down payment for a car. They might go buy that stereo. They might, get something fixed on their house they need fixed. It trickles down. We always used to hear what a horrible thing the trickle-down economics was. God love Ronald Reagan. But the thing is, it's going to have not just a massive effect, but again, the government, this huge this just huge government pig. There's just no better way of saying it. All that money goes in there, this vacuum, and never gets seen again. Now,
when they pay that $2,800 penalty, what do they get in return for it? Do they all of a sudden have nationalized health care?
No, you don't get anything for it. That's just your penalty for not having your insurance.
So the government is taking that money from them out of their pocket, and they're still not having health care, which was the whole idea behind ObamaCare to begin with.
Correct. And the intention of the penalty is to subsidize the exchanges and all that, but we know how well our government works, and will that money really end up in that particular program? That would be up to Congress to decide at some point in the future.
I think it's already bankrupting. Didn't they say that? They were saying that they had people with pre-existing conditions that would be covered. It hasn't even kicked in its entirety, far from it. And they're already saying that amount of money put aside for those people is going belly up.
Right. And there's so many new requirements of the health insurance companies as far as what these minimum required coverages are, that they have to provide for. There's no pre-existing condition issues in most of these insurance policies. There's required wellness visits and things of that nature, which is just going to drive up the cost.
One size does not fit all. I mean, you don't need to be giving a 60 or 70-year-old woman a birth control. It just makes no sense. But nothing this government does anymore makes sense, in my opinion, and I guess that's probably the grand design too.
Well, one of the little items in the current program is seniors cannot be billed. Their insurance cost cannot exceed more than 4 times what it would be for someone in their 20s, which means that there's one of two things that have got to happen. The insurance company can only make so much money off of a senior because of the amount of medical expenses that they have and prescriptions and all the things that they have to cover. So they can't lower the cost of the senior insurance. So what can they do to keep within that 1-to-4 ratio? They've got to increase the cost of that for the younger people.
What is this going to do to small businesses? Let's take, for example, a company that has, let's say, gross revenues of $3 million a year. They've got 12 employees. it's a small family-owned business. What is this going to do to somebody like that has 12 employees?
Well, if you have only 12 employees, actually, if you have less than 50, what they consider full-time equivalents employees, you're not mandated under this new program. So someone with 12 employees does not have to provide insurance to their employees.
But let's say they were
prior
to 2014. Actually, let's say right now, mom and dad that own this company are sitting down and they're going, you know what? Our insurance premiums are going through the roof. We got to stay afloat. We got to keep our business going. I think probably what we're going to need to do is cancel the insurance. We're going to need to cancel the health insurance for our 12 employees. Now,
and that's happening a lot.
That is happening right now.
And then you have government employees saying, how can that happen? Because the government employees don't have to, have a bottom line. They don't have to make ends meet.
Right. The government employees don't have to worry about whether or not there's profit at the end of the day.
But here's the thing, guys. You've got this man and wife that run this small business that have 12 employees. They've been providing health insurance as a benefit to these people. They're realizing in order to keep their business afloat, they've got to cut fat, and that's fat, so they cut it. Now, those 12 employees that have had insurance provided for them, or at least had it provided to them at a reasonable rate, are now going to be faced with a penalty if they don't go out and get it on their own, correct?
That's correct.
And what happens if they have a pre-existing condition?
Under these new mandates, if they go through the exchanges, the insurance coverages that happen through the exchanges will be required to accept the pre-existing conditions. But that's going to increase the cost.
Yeah,
so,
it's also going to put the government at the discretion of whether they're going to let these people get any kind of procedures or not, too.
Now, Mark, you got a company that's doing $25 million a year. They've got 57 full-time employees. What happens to this company now?
I want to raise my hand. Can I answer this question?
You have to go to the bathroom?
No.
Okay.
I want to answer this question, see if Mark agrees. You're going to lay off enough employees to get below the 50.
That is what a lot of people are looking at doing. They're looking at a couple of different things, and just completely laying off 7 or 8 employees to get below 50 would be one way to handle it. One of the other things that some people are looking at is they look at it and say, well, this person isn't full time if they're working less than 35 hours.
Bingo.
So I'm going to cut back their hours. But there's a problem with this program, and the program bases anyone who gets over 30 hours to be a full-time employee.
As opposed to 35? Or didn't it used to be 35?
To 40.
That's correct.
So the IRS changed, the government changed that.
Well, it's within this particular the ObamaCare Act, but so if small business owner says, well, I had 50 employees. Well, let's say I had 45 employees. I'm going to lay off 2 employees and have 43, and I'm going to bump them down to 35 hours apiece, and then I won't have any full-time employees. So I'm not covered by the plan.
You mean 30 hours? They'll be bumped down to 30
No, they're
hours.
going to bump them down to 35 because most small business owners think of it as 35 or less is kind of the cutoff. But if you have 42 employees working 35 hours, you effectively, under the Obamacare rules, have 50. It's like 50 and a half full-time employees. Because you consider each 30-hour employee to be a full-time employee.
So you have to lay off more.
So you have to lay off more.
Or
you have to cut their hours back. Now, I have heard complaints from a lot of the small businesses. Small businesses a lot of times will rely on very low-income labor, minimum wage and slightly above. Well, if you try to cut someone back from 40 hours to 30 hours that's making $8 an hour, you've just taken them from being able to afford food to not being able to afford food.
I think that, unfortunately, is the grand design. You get everybody dependent on the government. That's really sad. You really got to wonder whose side this government is on. I
can't even count the number of liberals that have battled me in debate regarding this very thing we're talking about, and I am sick to know that I was right.
Yeah,
I wanted to be wrong.
I also want. I say to them so many times, I wish there was a Republican in the White House, because I'd say the same darn thing. And all they see is Republican or Democrat. If Bush were in the White House, they'd be having a heart attack over this.
Hey, I want to open up the phone lines. We've got a great opportunity here for you guys that are listening to get free tax consultation advice. Because I would assume, Mark, that your hourly rate's pretty stout.
Yes.
I mean, compared to my hourly rate.
How do you study this?
917-675-3200. If you got a question about what's going on in 2014 and how it's going to affect your world, now's the time to call in.
Sounds like an atom bomb is about to hit our world, if it hasn't already.
Mark, are you hearing people already, and I'm talking about small business owners that come to you with to handle all of their accounting and taxes. Are you already hearing people talk about this? Are small business owners worried?
Yes, they all are worried. I have talked to people who have less than 50 employees, who may have 10 or 12 employees, but they're providing health insurance currently. Looking at these programs, looking at the minimum required coverages and all that means that their insurance is going to go up substantially. People that own small businesses are tired of seeing 35% increases in their annual premiums from one year to the next. And that's been happening and is going to continue to happen with all these new requirements of the insurance companies. So, as far as coverage. So, what you're seeing is a lot of people, as we mentioned earlier, that own small businesses, they're looking at and say, I can't afford to continue to provide this benefit to my employees.
Years ago, health insurance was to try to lure, we're talking 20, 30, 40 years ago, was to try to lure good employees to different companies. And that was an incentive. And then it got to the point where it was just everybody did it because it helped you keep decent employees. And then it got to the point where it's a right, supposedly, so they say. And now it's at the point where with this government, and it's by design, in my opinion, and it seems to be, unfortunately, coming to fruition. Through attrition, eventually everybody is going to have to be on these exchanges because unless, like you say, with this 1-to-4 ratio, a lot of these insurance companies aren't going to be able to stay in business either. And if eventually, sure, you can keep your health care, as Obama said, read between the lines, if you want to pay, 2 and 3 times for it. And that's it. What do I hear there?
Well, we've got a call that has come in. Caller, can you hear me?
Hey, Don.
Who is this?
Hey, this is Joe, your neighbor from over here in the great city or town or community of Central Hatchie.
Well, hi, Joe from Central Hatchie. You got a question for the bean counter?
Yes, sir. The observation I make since I deliver trucks, and we're independent contractors. I think that a lot of these companies have done the change to the independent contractor format. And, but, we also have 30 million people that's going to be not insured at all. And is the government going to take care of all of them, or are we just going to have to pay more taxes to take care of the, I wouldn't say underinsured, but uninsured?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, but from what I gather, you're wondering about the 30 million uninsured that supposedly Obamacare was supposed to cover. I don't think that's really going to decrease all that much, is it, Mark?
I don't think so. I think what you're going to see is a lot of the people that aren't covered are going to look at what it's going to cost to get coverage. versus what it's going to cost to pay the penalty because you don't have coverage is going to be cheaper to pay that penalty tax, and they're just going to elect not to have the coverage. So it's not really going to do what they touted that it was going to do in the first place.
Well, and a lot of companies a lot of people that I talk to are going to the independent contractor personnel instead of having employees.
The independent contractor route is a completely different can of worms that you can open up and open yourself up as an employer to some significant problems for not treating someone as an employee if they are, and therefore you aren't taking the responsibility of withholding their taxes and matching their Social Security and those things, and the government will be happy, the IRS will be very happy to come after you and pursue the fact that you're not doing what you should if you decide you want to treat everyone as an independent contractor.
Well, and there's a big litmus test for that as well.
I'm sorry, Don?
I said there's a big litmus test for determining the status of an independent contractor.
That's correct.
But now, do you see that happening under Obamacare?
I really haven't seen that being a direction that people are going, but most of my clients, I have always been very upfront with them as to what those litmus tests are for whether someone's an employee or whether they're an independent contractor, and we just address the employee status based on the requirements of that particular part of the tax law.
You just got to be real careful.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, and I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's mind-boggling. I mean, the members of Congress didn't even read this thing. They go and pass it, of course, with not one single Republican vote. And we're doing the same thing now with the immigration bill. They haven't read that one either. It's another 1,000 pages. My head wants to explode.
Mark, have you read? Have you read the 24? Have you read Obamacare?
I haven't read it from cover to cover. No.
My girlfriend did.
I don't have that much available time.
No kidding.
Well, my girlfriend, whose husband is a doctor and she's a nurse, she read it. I said, "You got to be kidding me." She goes, "No, we're screwed." That's pretty much all she said.
Well, talking about your doctor friend that you know, Donna, that's another area of concern. Is a significant number of doctors that I know have indicated that this is pretty much the last straw. Mm-hmm. They cannot, the old family doctor that was in practice for themselves won't exist any longer. They're either being absorbed by the big corporations or they've just decided that they're at that point where they're just going to close down their business.
And by that, along that vein also, no pun intended, you've got young kids in college who are looking at this going, there's no way I'm going to be a doctor. So the best and the brightest, which, when I was growing up, my mother always said, go marry a doctor. They're really smart. They make a lot of money. They're going to take care of you. She knew I wasn't smart enough to go to med school. That's not the case anymore. Now it's go be a slip and fall lawyer. That's the only way you're going to make any money. And there is no tort reform whatsoever in Obamacare because it was written by trial lawyers.
Right. There's nothing in Obamacare that protects the doctors. And what they're finding is that there are so many pressures on the insurance industry right now. One of the other ways that the insurance industry is going to be able to handle this shift in their cost and their format of running is going to be to lessen the amounts that they pay doctors for particular services. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be much more pressure there, and doctors' costs are going up significantly, as everyone else's is. Their malpractice insurance is continue to go up year after year. So doctors are looking at this and saying, we just can't stay in business any longer.
Especially the OBGYNs. They virtually are non-existent in many areas now. A lot of doctors
Especially
won't
more
even...
in rural areas.
Exactly. They won't deliver babies because there's too much of a chance of getting sued. Malpractice is in six figures for many of them. Nobody understands that. Then they got to keep their office open and pay their office staff. You know, before they make $1, they're $200,000-$300,000 in the hole every single year. And another thing that my girlfriend, who is a doctor, told me is the software. There's a whole new computer system and with this coding and this and that they have to learn. So doctors are going to be in front of their computer worrying about whether they got the right codes when they should be seeing patients, and it's just not going to fly. It just is unbelievable to me how people cannot see this coming down the road. The short-sightedness of Joe America right now, or at least the people that I know that are totally in the tank for Obama in this, have blinders on, absolute blinders on. Until it smacks them in the face, I guess they're not going to realize it.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the OBGYNs, I know of a pediatric neurologist that has decided that they're just not going to be able to stay in business, so they've closed their office. And these are services that, kids with special needs, that they've got to have this. And in an area such as Atlanta, where we are, there's not enough of those types of doctors around, even though this is a big, a big urban area. So it is mostly the specialist, but I'm seeing the specialists closing down their shops. I'm seeing the general practitioners. Like I said, they're either looking at closing or they're just going to go ahead and accept the fact that the large group, medical group, such as Wellstar, which is here in the Atlanta area, is going to go ahead and absorb their practice.
Yeah, a lot of doctors are being hired by these hospitals, but they're not paying their malpractice in many cases, and it's a huge thing.
Hey, we got about 10 more minutes with you, Mark. I want to lay out the phone number again if we've got anybody listening that wants to get some advice from you. 917-675-3200. 917-675-3200. Call in. You're welcome to ask a question. We got about 10, 15 more minutes here with Mark Simons.
I have some good advice. Stay healthy. Don't get sick. Then you're fine.
That's right.
You still have to, you'll still be penalized. You need insurance. I mean, what have our rates have almost doubled in the past few years?
25% last year. And it's going to go up probably another 25%. With no, knock on wood, I'm going to hit my head, pre-existing conditions.
And being a human has a bad tendency to, you have a bad tendency to do something that's very bad for your insurance rate, which is get older.
Get older. Yep. Age.
I'm not.
Age is a significant part of what your rates are going to do.
And that's exactly what the whole idea is. Sure, Obamacare isn't going to hit you right in the face if you're a 20-year-old and you're very idealistic about life, but everybody ages, and through attrition, eventually, you're probably going to have the entire country on socialized medicine. And, Sarah Palin might have called them death panels, which probably was not a very tactful way of putting it, but essentially, what are they? If they're not, you've got Kathleen Sebelius telling this little 10-year-old kid that she's too young to get a lung transplant. That's happening already.
All right, but that's all insurance woes. Mark, what does the individual filer need to do to help prepare for what I really believe is going to be a kick in the groin area starting 2014? What do they need to do to prepare? I mean, what do they need to do if they don't have any type of insurance?
Well, they have to look at what it would cost to get insurance versus what it's going to cost to pay the penalty if you don't have it, is ultimately the answer to that. One of the big problems that we're seeing right now is the state of Georgia was one of the, I believe it was 28 states that elected not to set up their own exchange, so they're using the federal government to provide the exchange. And
all right, put that in layman terms.
Well, the insurance exchange is where anyone can go to buy insurance and supposedly buy insurance at a competitive rate. And each state was mandated to set up their own exchange. But under the program, they had the ability to elect not to set up their own exchange and pass that responsibility back to the federal government. The state of Georgia and I believe 28 other states elected not to do their own exchange. So more than half of the states in the union decided they didn't want to bother with it because they knew how difficult and practically impossible this program was going to be. So the exchange for the state of Georgia is being run by the federal government. The exchange is supposed to bring in the ability for someone to go into the exchange online or however, a phone call, and fill out an easy application process and have several different insurance companies bid on providing them insurance. Well, it's come out within the last few weeks that if the exchanges are ready to go by the beginning of 2014, if they're ready, they may be able to provide one insurance policy quote to you.
That sounds competitive to me.
It's not going to be competitive. They're not set up to be able to be competitive yet.
Well, what has the government ever done that hasn't gone bankrupt? What has the government ever done correctly or efficiently? Zilch. I'm answering my own question.
No, they've spent money.
Yeah, I mean, that's not efficient. That's inefficient.
Mark,
that's all they know how to do, and raise taxes.
You practice in the state of Georgia. We got listeners that are calling or that are listening and calling in from all over quite frankly, the globe.
Right.
Are you able to? Let's say John Doe lives in Arkansas, and he's listening to the show, and he's thinking, "Man, I don't have anybody representing me with regard to my taxes." Is he able to come to you because you're practicing in Georgia, or does he have to find somebody in Arkansas?
From a health care standpoint, you mean?
From taxes.
Oh, okay.
As a CPA.
No, as a CPA, we're it's mostly the federal tax code that we study. So I can work with anybody in whatever state you're in. In fact, I work with people all over the country, as well as working with people that live outside of the country. So
that would be all 57 states, right?
Yeah, something like that.
What about this health care? Because before that was a huge problem, being portable from state to state. They supposedly said that's going to be allowable now. Do you know anything about that, if that is going to be the case?
The portability of it is something that I'm not familiar with. It's not really kind of the tax or the financial application of it. So I don't really know where the portability issue stands.
If somebody's listening and, say, lives in Arkansas or Texas or Arizona or wherever, and they'd like to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do it?
The best way would be to go to my business's website, and that's SimonsCPA.com, which is SIMONSCPA.com, and they can get in touch with me that way.
All right.
Easy enough.
And one other thing I'd like to bring up, we were talking about the small businesses a few minutes ago.
Yep.
Entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs, and they like to work on one thing and get it up and running, and then they like to go off and do something else. And a lot of small business people believe that if I have two different companies and I have 30 employees in company A and 20 employees in company B, those are two different companies. So neither one of those are going to be required to be covered under this Obamacare.
Wrong.
That is completely wrong.
Really? Yeah. So they got you going and coming, don't they? They have every angle figured out.
They do. Clients of mine that have 2 or 3 different companies, you have to look at the total aggregate employees under your control. So it's not just one company. It's not. You can't just go and set up different companies to isolate yourself from this issue. And there are a lot of small business owners that aren't aware of that.
And that's going to cause a lot of them to either dissolve one company or the other, or sell it.
Well,
possibly?
They may still keep the companies open, but they need to be aware that even though Company A doesn't have enough employees to by itself be required to have coverage under Obamacare, and Company B doesn't either, if you have 60 employees total under both of those companies, you have to comply with Obamacare.
Gosh.
And you're going to be subject to the penalties. One of the things that we didn't discuss is the fact that and individuals that don't have coverage are going to be subject to a tax if they're not covered. The same thing's going to be true for businesses. If you have over 50 full-time employees, full-time equivalent, and you don't cover your employees, you're going to be subject to a $2,000 per employee, over 30 employees, tax penalty. But a lot of people are looking at it and saying, if I provide that employee health insurance, it may cost me $400 a month.
Yeah, it actually would be cheaper.
It's going to be cheaper to pay the penalty.
If you saw what Don just did, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Mark.
It's a good thing it's not television. We actually had a fly sitting here on the table, and he flicked it and it went right into my lap. God, you live on a horse farm, you're going to have flies in the house. Anyhow.
You're about to find that out, Mark.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, really. So it is cheaper, though, in some respects. So maybe people won't lay off employees if they have bigger companies. They'll pay that $2,000 fine. Eventually, I'm sure that's going to be raised up.
Well, everything is going to escalate as time goes along, except for the number of employees, and that's going to get smaller and smaller.
Well,
So,
you know what? The government's going to use this to bolster their employment numbers, because John Doe, that's held a full-time job with ABC Company, is now being cut back to part-time. He's going to go get a second job, and now there's 2 jobs that can add to this employment
Yeah,
number.
they count that as 2 jobs.
Right.
And then they say, oh, well, the unemployment number is improving.
Well, we won't even get to underemployment issues that don't get covered under those numbers. So.
All right, so in short, is there anything outside of the fact that it's pretty much total job security for you? Is there anything about what's going on with the new tax structure with Obamacare and how it's affecting it that is going to benefit any of us?
Well, I will say that although I'm not for the Obamacare program, as I do have a child in my household who is over 21 who has some health care issues. And because of some of these new requirements, I'm able to keep her covered under my insurance until she reaches the age of 26.
Yeah, but you know what? We didn't need this monstrosity of a bloated health care bill and now law to take care of that situation.
Well,
this could have been covered in about 9 pages.
I'm not arguing with you. You just asked me if there was any beam of sunshine, and to me, I guess that's the only beam of sunshine.
Well, and Donna and I, between the 2 of us, have 4 kids that are able to be on that type of a situation as well till they're 26. But outside of that,
and most, kids aren't going to need insurance. I hate to say it. There are certainly many, many instances where that is not the case. But
my youngest son does, because he's constantly breaking things playing ball and sticking sticks into his leg and things like that.
I know.
Well, I will say, though, that there are more children, if you want to call them, young adults that are underemployed, are in a situation in their particular line of business where they're not able to get insurance. So there's probably more young adults that are covered under that extension of the program.
Well, and again,
yes,
I'm
and
in
that's
agreement.
good.
I'm in agreement with this. The problem is we didn't need 2,600 pages.
Now, and the other thing is that I guess is good in a way is a lot of people who are kind of, putting this to the side are now going to be forced to face it. And there are a lot of people who might get sick suddenly or break something suddenly and be faced with tens of thousands of dollars in medical bills, and they might be happy that they've got some sort of insurance that was forced on them. But I don't know what percentage of that is. It'd be interesting to find out.
Yeah, I don't know what that percentage
that's going to help.
Hey, I'm thinking that we're going to need to bring you back on. You up for that?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
I mean, I'm thinking the closer we get to 2014, we're going to need
we may actually have some real answers if we get a little closer to 2014.
Yeah. Some pretty good answers as it is. And we want to bring on some insurance people as well to talk about it with you. I think that would be really good. Kind of have a discussion as far as a roundtable discussion from the CPA as well as the insurance angle.
Mark Simon, CPA. Please give us your contact info again so the folks listening can have that.
Yes, it's Mark Simons at simonscpa.com, and that's SIMONSCPA.com.
Thanks a million, man. Appreciate you being on.
All right. Thank you, Don and Donna.
All right, Mark, we'll talk to you.
See you, buddy.
Bye.
All right. We got
This
a bit
is
of a
scary.
surprise for you.
You do?
Yeah. Well, I don't even know if you know. The omnipresent general
I'm saluting. Hoi.
contacted us from his underground bunker.
Thought he was playing with his grandson.
The grandson went to sleep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it is kind of late, I guess.
We're going to go to break. We're going to extend. And why are we going to do that? Because we own this show. And if we want to broadcast for 48 straight hours, we can do that. We're going to go to a quick break. And when we get back, Major General Paul Vallely is going to join us again. And hopefully you'll be able to call in. We'll be right back.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
You're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio.
Mom, I'm home.
Hi, honey. Did you find a job?
Not yet.
Again? Oh, maybe next time.
Maybe not. Why should I get a job? I got a roof over my head, 3 squares, laundry done, and thanks to Obamacare, health care till I'm 26. I've got it made.
That's right, kids. While the administration keeps telling us that the unemployment rate has gone down 0.1% overall, what they don't tell you is that more than 500,000 people have stopped looking for work. So they aren't even counted anymore. If they were, the unemployment rate would be closer to 15%. But wait, there's more. Youth unemployment is already there. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, teenage unemployment is a staggering 16.3%, more like 23% for young black and Hispanic men, the very group Obama has professed he's trying to help. Even the very liberal Huffington Post reported back in 2011 that youth unemployment was, quote, the worst summer on record for young adults looking for work in 2010, and 2011 since the Labor Department started keeping those stats. That's since 1948. In other words, the highest youth unemployment since the Great Depression. Now, with almost 1 million not counted since they gave up looking, it shows no sign of improving. The youth labor participation rate is at an all-time low. Rutgers University professor Charles E. Van Horn said these, quote, unfulfilled expectations for young people trying to get that meaningful early job and failing means increased poverty, the potential to work off the books, atrophy of skills, and an increased reliance on social safety nets. And black teens are even less likely to find work, as those who need work experience the most get the least. Statistics show that young people's first job and early employment history improves their self-esteem, buying power, and overall proves they'll be more successful in life, which can only help the country as a whole. The economy has been shrinking since 2009. The labor participation rate is at an all-time low since they kept those stats back in 1948. So it stands to reason that those with no experience looking for their first job will be the hardest hit. Couple that with kids coming out of college with tens of thousands of dollars in college tuition they'll have a diminished capacity to repay. The social ramifications are also staggering. Any way you cut it, this is record high youth unemployment, period.
So why bother looking anymore? I'll just get turned down or end up with a nothing job when I can hang out in the basement and play Xbox all day. Hey, that way I can live off of everybody else. Thanks, President Obama.
The Cowboy Logic phone lines are now open. Give us a call at 917-675-3200. That's 917-675-3200.
Hey everybody, this is Stan Levy, also known as the Black Man Thinking out here in California. When I'm not dealing with the friends of Governor Moonbeam out here, I tune into Cowboy Logic. Hope you do too.
You know, do me a favor. Could you say senator instead of ma'am?
I love these members that get up and say, read the bill.
What difference at this point does it make?
The whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
We know that the free market is nonsense.
This liberal will be all about socializing, will be about basically taking over and the government running all of your companies.
The time has come for unfiltered, politically incorrect common sense. Welcome to the wild world of Cowboy Logic.
And welcome back to Cowboy Logic Radio. I'm Donna Fiducia along with Don Neuen. We're going to extend our time a little bit this evening. Why? Because we can. It's our show. We can do that if we want to. And it's for an extremely good cause, too, because truthfully, I'm going to have trouble sleeping otherwise if I keep thinking about this tax stuff that we just talked about with Mark Simons. This is scary stuff.
Yeah, General, make us feel better.
Yeah, Major General Paul Vallely. Oh, man, it's just great to bring you on board again, sir. StandUpAmericaUS.org, and we do salute you. Hello there.
Hello, Donna. Hello, Don.
How you doing, sir?
Happy to be with you.
We thought
beautiful
that...
night out here in Montana.
I bet it is. I bet it is. We thought that you were out with the grandchildren, but I guess it is getting a little bit late. So, of course, we're going to put you to work here for a minute, talking about our new affiliation. Again, we spoke to Scott earlier, Scott Winchell, and it's just great to be associated with StandUpAmericaUS.org.
Well, we're very happy, too, and I think it was one of those things that just evolved, and we were able to come to an agreement to do it together. And I know all of us at Stand Up America, all of our members and associates and affiliates of Stand Up America are very happy that we could make this happen and get Stand Up America back on the radio again. You know, I do a lot of radio interviews every week, but now to have our own affiliated show, I think is just wonderful.
Yeah, it is, definitely. Can you explain to us a little bit about what we spoke with Scott briefly, what you consider the lily pad strategy, rather, and the chessboard pertaining to the Middle East and what's going on over there?
Well, about 10 years ago, I was working on a special project at the Department of Defense, and it had to do with what we call Joint Strike Force operations. And those operations really included the melding of Air Force, Navy, Army, and Marines, all bringing their capabilities into a joint force that could be used anytime, anywhere. For example, if we had a mission, as we did in the fall of 2001 in Afghanistan, to take out the Al-Qaeda training camps and basically neutralize the Taliban there, that we would pull together the right aircraft, the right special ops forces, the right conventional forces, the right naval forces, and Marines in order to launch an operation like that. And so that's what we mean by jointness, joint operations among all the active, reserve, and National Guard forces. Well, then, as you recall, we took down the Taliban in 34 days with 100 special ops and CIA paramilitary and the Air Forces. And so that was really a great example of what we call launching from known lily pads. And the lily pads, as you can relate to a pond where you have all the frogs, and these lily pads are spread out all over that pond. Well, the same thing that we've had with all of our bases around the world are in fact lily pads, and they're broken down into the type A lily pads, which are our known bases. It could be Fort Bragg, North Carolina, Fort Stewart, Georgia. It could be McChord Air Force Base in Washington, the state of Washington. It could be in Hawaii. It could be in Okinawa. And then you have the type B bases, which are bases that are overseas, jointly, say, with another country, like we have in Aviano in Italy, as we've had in Donna, Turkey, for example. And then you have the C lily pads, which are what we call the black bases. These are bases that are used for covert operations, but they're basically inside a very secure country that would be, in most cases, an ally. And those allies would basically support the operations to be conducted either by NATO or by other forces of other countries. So the lily pads really are places to launch from. And with that concept, we can launch anywhere, anytime, 24 hours a day. But all of a sudden, in the early 2000s, we got off track. After 2001, I could see it coming when I did a show with Tony Snow, January 2002. We started to build up forces, conventional forces in Afghanistan. And I could see what was happening was the same thing we did in Vietnam. You start what we call mission creep. And we got into nation building in this mythological coin strategy, counterinsurgency strategy, which has never worked, except maybe one occasion with the British in Malaysia. And so we started misusing our forces by going into nation building. And if you look at the Constitution and you look for the raison d'etre of our armed forces, it is for the securing of America. It's not going out nation building. And if you look after World War II, we defeated Nazi Germany, we defeated the Japanese, but we created a peace. We had victory. Therefore, the nations could rebuild, and you could help them. But you can't nation build in a nation like Afghanistan, Iraq, when there's wars going on. So it was a faulty strategy, and we fell off the boat, so to speak, from the Joint Strike Force operations, the lily pad strategy. So I brought that back to life again, and that's what we're introducing is the forward strategy for America is the Joint Strike Force strategic operations and what we call launching from lily pads.
Now,
but after we accomplish the mission, we come back home. We don't have permanent bases overseas, so to speak, other than a few what we call the A lily pads.
But then you have a problem with the culture, too. I mean, in Europe, after World War II, you had a more advanced, for lack of a better way of saying it, westernized culture, where once the war was over, those people were more civilized, really. There wasn't that situation like you have in Afghanistan and Iraq, really, where there's so much infighting as well. Then you have the political aspect of it from the United States, meddling, in my opinion. And now, like you say, we defeated the Taliban in 34 days. Fast forward to this week, we have news that, well, the U.S. is going to begin direct talks with the Taliban, and the Taliban is going to accept that. It's unbelievable.
Well, that's because there was no victory achieved after that.
Yep.
And we went into nation building, into an environment that was still hostile. And so the whole concept and strategy was wrong. It was wrong under Bush, and it's equally as wrong under Obama.
Is it my imagination, or are we even getting farther into this? We've sent troops to Somalia again. We've sent troops into Libya. Obviously, we're helping Egypt with the Muslim Brotherhood, and now we're talking about Syria.
Well, I think we've lost our way, Donna and Don. We don't have a forward strategy. General Tom McInerney and I have been working on this for years, trying to get the Defense Department to change, but they've become so politicized now, following under the erroneous and erratic policies of the politicians who are misusing our armed forces and in many ways have destroyed the integrity now of the entire armed forces across the board, the Army, Air Force, Marines, and Navy. Morale has never been lower. We've had the highest suicide rates we've ever had. We're still over in Afghanistan with no clear strategy other than to depart in 2014. We put all the assets, financial and human resources in Iraq, and what do we have? A zero victory for the American taxpayer and for the American citizen. Iran is basically controlling Iraq right now. The same thing's going to happen in Afghanistan.
And that's what happened.
This is a lack of leadership.
And when Saddam Hussein was there, he at least kept Iran at bay. And everybody said, well, he's got to go. He's got to go. Well, yeah, he does. But like you say, we can't nation build either. I just don't understand, because I obviously don't have the military background at all, how you can expect our military to go in there with, again, just like I saw in Vietnam, their hands tied behind their back. It wasn't much better in Korea either, but it's just a steady, slow decline. And like you say, it's showing up in morale. It's showing up in the suicide rate. In Kabul today, 3 killed, 30 injured. And then you sit there and you tell the enemy we're going to pull out next year. So what do you think they're going to do? They're going to sit around, hang out, and ready for us to, leave. And then like a vacuum, they're going to come right back in.
Well, and that's fine if they come back in. Let them be there. If it's not a threat to America, we shouldn't be there anyhow.
I agree.
So that's what we have to go back to the Constitution, and we have to look at the threats now, where they're coming from. Iran is a serious threat to the United States because of support of international terrorism. And we look at Russia and China, and you look at that chessboard, and it's like a teeter-totter. The weaker the United States gets, the stronger Russia and China get. And so without any clear forward strategy in America, and with the ineptness of the leadership we have, and now it's even more perilous because that ineptness is spread across not only Congress, but the White House, the CIA, the NSA, the Department of Defense, the State Department. we probably have the most inept government, corrupt government that we've ever had in our history.
Wow, it's a pretty tall statement there.
Well,
I can't say I disagree
with
you. Can't say I disagree with you at all. Is it because these are more academics in there that really don't have the experience calling the shots?
Too many academics, too many lawyers. We don't have enough operators in there. People that have been out, have done it, have been on the ground doing things. We need action people, people that have integrity, people that don't look at political correctness as a course of action to take. They do what's right for America. One of the things we'll launch on the radio show when you're ready, probably in the next couple of weeks, is the New Americans Project that Stand Up America has undertaken. And that's a political type of a project that we've been working on for a year, but basically we want candidates in the political system to run as Americans first before they run as a Democrat or Republican.
There you go.
It's a whole new concept in politics that we're introducing to the United States.
Yeah, how strange will that be for politicians?
Oh boy, it's going to be something. But we're getting a good reaction just in some surveys we're taking. Part of the project is to eliminate initially 25% of the federal government, and that will all be in the documents we put out. We'll be doing away with the Federal Reserve, the IRS, Department of Education, and we go on down the line to restructure the entire U.S. government for the future, and that's part of the American project.
After talking,
I think it's going to be dynamite.
After talking to Mark Simons, a CPA earlier that we had on, you just got to wonder why the IRS even exists. And I know Herman Cain has been pushing for the 999. There's a lot of people pushing for the fair tax or the flat tax. And instead of trying to regroup and to fix our tax structure, we're digging ourselves into a deeper hole by letting the IRS now run our health care. It's insanity.
No, that's why it's got to be dismantled.
Yep.
It's like a rebranding of the Republican Party that's going on, and we're rebranding, I should say, for the American political system, what we call the American Project. And I think it's going to take hold because basically it puts everybody, whether you're a libertarian or a Republican or a Democrat, conservative, liberal, whatever the case may be, we're going to change the dialogue and the names in the political system. And so I don't want to be known as a conservative or a liberal or progressive anymore because it doesn't mean that much in terms of the politicians you see out there. Now, it's hard to tell the difference. But when we put you out there first as an American who believes in the Constitution, believes in the values, you don't lie, cheat, or steal, you have an honor code, and you really go back to basic values of what a great human being should and could be. And that's what the American Project is all about.
Need a lot of responsibility to come back into this country, too.
I read your documentation that you sent me on that, and I got to tell you, I was pumped up after reading it.
Yeah.
Well, we want to use the radio show to get the word out for people to understand that we need a major transition to take America back. If not, we're totally over the cliff, and the only thing that may assist us in surviving is some kind of a revolution. And I don't know what that's going to look like, but certainly if we can make some very smart, sincere changes in America and in our leaderships and how we look at politics, I think we can turn it around without that revolution happening.
There's a lot of people out there that feel this way, but there's no one leader. I mean, Ted Cruz comes to mind. Rand Paul comes to mind. Mike Lee, yeah. Aside from that, I mean, even Marco Rubio, to me, has gone over to the dark side. And
he has
Paul
gone.
Ryan.
I've lost all confidence in him.
Yeah, me too. Paul Ryan. I heard him on today, hemming and hawing. He was on with Mark Levin, actually, hemming and hawing, trying to, tell Mark Levin how this immigration bill was such a good thing and needed to be passed. And I don't know. I always heard when I was in news that what happens is when these idealistic new, congressmen and senators go to D.C., they get pulled aside and they say, you toe the party line or else you're out. And it's pretty obvious that really is the case. And there's just a few out there that are sticking their neck on the block. Unfortunately, not enough.
Ted Cruz is far ahead and above everybody else right now, in my opinion. I wish we had everybody like him.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, they're throwing stones at him, aren't they?
Yeah, they're trying to throw him under the bus already.
Well, sure. I hope he stands up to it. But we need the people of America can't depend on the politicians solving our problems. We have to take that on. It's our responsibility as people, because the politicians work for us. We don't work for them.
Well, they seem to forget that, don't they?
They do seem to forget that.
And Obama works for us.
Yeah.
But
he never knew that,
and he wouldn't know.
But, what are your thoughts? And I know it's getting late, and I really appreciate you being with us this late. What are your thoughts on the Obama-Putin meeting that we were talking about at the top of the show with the photograph?
Well, excuse me, if body language could speak, which it does. It was right there on the television.
Oh, it was great.
Putin wasn't putting up with any of his BS whatsoever.
No,
I haven't seen that classic of a photograph since I watched Netanyahu smack Obama around in his own office.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Obama, the child that he is, he doesn't cope with that very well.
No, it really is. The first debate with Romney also was a very revealing moment, and it's just amazing to me how the mainstream media covers for such ineptness. And I know he has an agenda. He's driven in some respects, I think, is a very dangerous person because of that. But there's other people, obviously, the George Soroses of the world and the Valerie Jarrett's pulling those strings. But, he's doing a great sales job. But when he gets put up against those world leaders, I mean, he's just totally minor league. It's not even.
Totally minor. His one book was written on him. He's an amateur.
Yeah.
And he'll never be a professional. He just doesn't have it. And when you see the interviews on television and they call him, well, where's he leading? Where's his leadership? Well, there is no leadership because he's not a leader.
No, he's a politician.
He is who he is.
He's an
organizer.
organizer.
He'll never be a leader. He doesn't have the skills to be a leader.
Yeah, he's a community organizer. And, then I have other friends, acquaintances, people I used to work with that criticize, he won the Nobel Peace Prize. He's got a beautiful family. Well, if he's got such a beautiful family, he never travels with them. You never see him with them. His behavior is quite odd.
Why do I know the general wants to go someplace with that?
Families that, could do a lot better job than he does, that's for sure.
I don't know.
Anyhow, I've got to take the day off here. We got a big day coming up tomorrow, and I may be going back to the Middle East in 2 weeks.
Well, General, thank you for joining us again. Thank you for believing in us.
Well, I certainly do, and we're going to be a great success together, and I really look forward to it.
Major General Paul Vallely, we thank you for checking in with us this late in the evening. Even if you are out in Montana, it's well past your bedtime because I know you get up early. And the New Americans Project is what he was talking about. If you can, I don't know if you've released it yet. We're going to, I guess, talk about it. It's basically a platform to try to rebuild America. And again, the organization that we are pairing with here at Cowboy Logic Radio, that the General and also Scott Winchell, we were talking to earlier, are a huge part of, is this StandUpAmericaUS.org. And we do encourage everybody to go online, read about it, get involved, again, because you get the government you deserve. And if you don't get involved, don't complain, because it's getting to the point now where we darn well better do something, or else we are going to lose what we have grown up to love in our lifetime. And it's not shrill to say that. That really is happening.
General, thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Good night.
Okay, good night. We'll talk to you later. Okay, another one in the books at 11:23 Eastern Time. I want to thank everybody for calling in and listening in. It's a work in progress. We are loving every bit of Cowboy Logic Radio. Mark Simon's CPA. Again, check him out if you have any questions. Also, I know a lot of people are, about their tax returns coming up even more so than ever. there isn't another reason to abolish the IRS, this is it. Anyhow, Simons CPA.com is where you can get hold of him.
What is Mark Simons going to do if we're able to abolish the IRS?
I'm sure there'd be plenty of books for him to do, but that would be a pleasant surprise for
in the next
people.
couple of weeks, obviously with the marriage between Cowboy Logic Radio and StandUpAmericaUS.org, there's going to be some curveballs that are thrown to us at the last minute where we're going to be taking different directions, and we may be altering our schedule just a little bit. But as of right now, along with all the SUA updates and intel that they're going to be pumping us, what have we got going on next week, Luce? There we go.
Well,
I just called you Luce.
Call me Lucy, yes. Okay, Ricky, I'll tell you. Well, we do hope to have someone from an insurance company talking about a little more about Obamacare. That's what we're working on. I don't know if it's going to be next week, but hopefully we'll do it for next week.
And we also are in the process of setting up our second roundtable that's exclusively made up of Facebook people.
Yes.
That are following Cowboy Logic and have been. So we're putting that all together. We're going to disclose to you those 3 members of the roundtable. Not now, though.
You could check the website.
Hey, as we close the night out, we want to play the theme for the Stand Up America group. And Luce,
let's give the websites one more time.
I just called you Luce again.
Yeah, no.
This is...
Yeah. We should tell people. I call him Ricky, he calls me Lucy, and unfortunately when you get more relaxed, the true us comes out.
Yeah.
But it's StandUpAmericaUS.org. You can find us, CowboyLogic.us, so please check out our website. We will update it and tell you exactly who and when is going to be on next Tuesday at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Until then, please be diligent. Call your congressman, especially and your senators and your congressmen, in fact, to voice your opposition to this immigration bill, because it's going to do nothing but really put the death knell in this country as far as I'm concerned. Legal immigration is fine, but illegal immigration should not be rewarded. I'm going to come down off my soapbox now.
You are indeed. Hey, when you go to the StandUpAmericaUS.org site, by the way, unlike the Cowboy Logic website, there's a button that's over in the right-hand corner near the top. And it says donate.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got some money you're trying to figure out what to do with, that might be your answer. Think about it. Go visit the site. You'll spend hours there reading things, and you'll get edumacated.
Yes, stuff you are not going to see in the mainstream media, which is what gave birth to Cowboy Logic in the first place. And again, we are so proud to sponsor, co-sponsor with us, StandUpAmericaUS.org. We are just proud of the whole affiliation at this point, and I'm looking forward to having it grow in the future with General Paul Vallely and Scott Winchell and the whole gang over there at StandUpAmericaUS.org. Again, everybody, thank you so much for joining us here on Cowboy Logic. Check us out on the web, cowboylogic.us. I'm Donna Fiducia, a.k.a. Lucy.
And Ricky. I'm Don Neuen.
Ricky.
And thanks a lot for joining in with us. We love you, and we need you.
See you next Tuesday, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Be safe. Have a great week, everyone.
All eyes are watching to see what you'll do. Who'll take the chance and make the first move?
Logic Radio. Unfiltered, politically incorrect, common sense. You've been listening to Cowboy Logic Radio, a division of Donna Fiducia Production.